Welcome back to Builders, Makers, Doers. I'm Andy Bassett. I'm here with Elliot Bassett, and we are joined today with Matt Christopherson, a multitude of companies he's built over time that we are going to dive into today.
Let's build off that. All right, man. Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Worked out well. A little meeting beforehand and jump into a podcast.
Yeah, I love it when I can,
Kill two birds with one
put two
stone.
meetings in one. So saves time.
2 hours here with us hanging out.
Yeah.
That's
Meeting a lot of Bassets today. I don't know.
true.
Getting a little overwhelmed here.
you met Chase Bassett today.
I don't blame you. There's only one you haven't met, and that would be very overwhelming.
Yeah. Maybe after this.
There you go.
There
you go. No, but I mean, start out real quick. As we said in the intro, I mean, you own several different companies in and around the trades business. And so kind of walk through your background, how you got to where you're at today, what the companies look like, and then we'll kind of dive into the conversation.
Sure. So I started plumbing in about 2004. Just started digging ditches, making $6 an hour. It was back then. It was really hard to get into construction unless if your dad was in the industry. Yep. It was easy, or you knew somebody, or you had to have a ton of experience, right? So It was not like it is today. It was super hard to get in. So I found a company. Even $6 an hour back then was not very much, but that's what you had to do to start, right?
That's wild to think about.
So I started digging ditches. We worked through 2008. We didn't really get hit with the recession, kind of like the coast did. I mean, I was working overtime throughout that whole thing. So I thought, man, this is a good career choice, right? So just did that for about 15 years, eventually got into a management role, got into the office. They taught me how to estimate, taught me how to project manage. And then by that time, I had probably 10, 15, 20 guys that worked underneath of me and was just like, hey, Matt, you got to go start your own company. We'll come with you. Let's build something great. And I remember coming home from work, and I had a pretty good job, right? I mean, I made more money than I thought I was ever going to make, right? And come home, told my wife, we just built a new house, just had a new baby. And I was like, hey, I quit my job today and I'm going to go out on my own. She's like, well, will you at least watch the baby? So I was like, I can do that, right? So I just, with baby behind me, I got on my computer and just started grinding, right? Yeah. And didn't really take long. We landed, Casey's gas stations had that time just bought all of the Buc-ee's gas stations and all of the Fantasies. Yep. And I had some connections there. So they gave me all of that work. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's just, put a lot of work in but man, luck has a lot to do with any successful business, just right place, right time a lot of the time. So.
Oh, it's so true. Walk through those early days starting your own, because I'd imagine, there's plenty of challenges in starting your own business. But I'm curious, you had the guys that wanted to come with you. So did you have to go get jobs before you were able to bring them on, or kind of walk through that period of time where you just quit your job, you got to start this new company. Obviously, though, you got to pay the guys. You got to, pay for all the things. How'd that work as you were getting up and going?
That's a dangerous line to toe, because it's like, you need to go get all that work, but then you don't have any money to pay the guys or pay for material. So I sort of built it up on my back, so to speak. So for the first 6 months, I was doing everything, right? Like, I would do the bidding. I'd go out at night with my tools. I'd do the job. And we were doing smallish work, $10,000, $15,000 jobs, but I'd take my profit and you'd save it, right? Yeah. And you build it up. So eventually you had enough to where you could buy one guy a van and hire one guy. And then, at some point you just have to make the decision of leveraging every single thing that you have. Yeah. I mean, you can save us as much money as you can, but at some point, you got to stick your neck out there, man. And
the bank owns everything.
The bank owns everything, and you're pot committed at that point, and you're like, we're either doing this or not. And then that was one of the things that I think helped grow my business was I never treated it like my piggy bank. The business came first. It came before us. It came before vacations we wanted to take. you put all of that money back into the business constantly. And eventually you dig yourself out of debt, and then you've got a fairly decent business. But cash flow at first was a huge problem. I mean, big problem. And
I can only imagine, yeah.
yeah, you did whatever you had to do to scrape all your nickels together and give it to the business so that it could function.
Well, and that's the entrepreneurial spirit that people have, is putting their neck on the line, right, and taking that risk because they see what they think they can build, which is cool because you built something awesome. I want to rewind a little bit, though. You mentioned having, as you were looking to, or even people in the prior organization were approaching you about going and starting your own thing and saying, hey, I'll follow you if you do. I imagine people that are going to listen to this they're in that same spot where they're thinking about starting their own thing or breaking away. What do you think you were doing that got people to be behind you, that wanted to kind of say, hey, you could do this?
Yeah,
I'll follow.
That's a great question. I came from the same trenches that they did. Yeah. You know what I mean? That was huge, right? And I think they were all just happy to see somebody like them succeed, right? Like we worked for multiple places where, yeah, the guy may be a plumber who owned it, but guy hasn't put a piece of pipe in for 30 years, or his son is the owner, or his grandson, right? And it's just these, excuse me, these other owners are so disconnected from the workforce, right? They don't understand what they go through every day, and they don't share their same plight. So I think as a manager of them, they really appreciated, like, you know, how I treated them, right? Like I thought it was kind of ridiculous how I had a boss one time, and he's actually a buddy of mine, but I'll never forget the first year I worked for him, we got a Christmas bonus, and our Christmas bonus was 1 week's paycheck. And to me, that was huge. That was everything. I was struggling, you know, I had a couple of kids at home, and to give me a week's paycheck, that meant the world to me and to all of us, right? So next year comes along, and it's Christmas time, and you know if your company is doing well or not well. We were doing very well, right? So Christmas time comes, and you know, a bonus is a bonus. It's not it's a gift, right? It's not a given. We all knew that. But next door, there's 2 brand new snowmobiles that he just purchased, right? And it's sitting next door. And comes Christmas time, and you know, there's no bonuses for us. And people see that, right? You know, and we talk like, well, how can he have new snowmobiles? And I mean, you can't throw us $100 gift card. You know what I mean? You can't do something to appreciate us. And it was like, I was in the same plight with them. And I kind of made the pledge to all of them that, like, we're going to find a spot that takes care of us and puts us before the snowmobiles. You know, you can buy snowmobiles. I want you to be able to do that, but you got to take care of the people that take care of you. And then if there's money left over, you buy snowmobiles, you know? And we struggled, I say, like, we as the team of guys we struggled to find that person that was going to take care of us with that same mentality, you know? So one of my pledges to them was, hey, I know your guys' plight. I know what you guys go through. I promise I'm going to put you above my own personal things. And we continue to do that this day. Like, I think last year I handed out a little over $250,000 in bonuses, right? Because at the end of the year, like, that, you guys did this, right? You know, this year we're on track for about 350. So it's like, that's the whole thing, man. You got to keep taking care of the people that take care of you. And then on top of that, like, you build a team, everybody's happy, right? They're happy to be there. They feel appreciated. Most people just want to feel appreciated, right? And I mean, at the end of it, you know, they do. They work harder. They're happier. They're more efficient. Like, they tell their friends about your company and they want to come over. So I think that's what it was, right? I made all these promises to everybody that, like, we were going to do it better and we were going to take care of them. And I like to think that I've done that. And I always want to have that in the back of my mind. I never want to get to a point where I forget that. You know what I mean? Or it's like, because I think most people start with good intentions. Oh, I am going to take care of my guys, and I am going to make sure everybody's happy. But, you know, I think a lot of people their ego gets in the way, and a little bit of greed gets in the way. It really does, you know, and it's kind of cool because to some degree you can have both, right? Totally. Like, you can still have all that. You just got to, you know.
I think what people lose sight of there is the dividends those decisions pay down the road, right? I mean, it's
or
short.
cost you down the road.
Yeah, or cost you. Yeah, the wrong decision, because I mean it's real short-sighted to, overlook, because what you just described is, it's one thing to overlook the bonus for the snowmobile, but like that decision, the message, the culture, the implications that that's creating down the road to create a dissatisfied, or conversely, to Elliot's point, the act of doing and holding up those promises, what that creates from a commitment and they're going to work harder, they're going to be more productive, they're going to do better, and your company's going to grow better as a result. And everybody, yourself included as the owner, get rewarded for that. And
I couldn't have said it better myself, actually. I get a lot of praise from the workers, or at Christmas time, their wives, like, oh, I can't believe like you gave us that bonus. I appreciate it so much. And yeah, I'm a great guy, but like you said, I get more return from giving it back to you than I would taking it, right? Like, it's actually a really good business decision as well.
Yeah.
So
I mean, especially if because this might be the next question I'm going to ask, because when you're building a long-lasting legacy company, those decisions early on are legacy-based decisions. Like, I'm making these decisions to do all the things you just said, which is build this thing, which is going to reward me and it's going to reward all of you. So speaking of that, you have you've been through acquisitions, you've formed, multiple companies. So it started out, as you mentioned, on the plumbing side, but now we've got heating and cooling, we've got, site survey, or the trenching side, we've got residential through acquisition. I mean, talk about the growth, talk about what you've learned, maybe things that you've done right, things you've done not so right through that.
Yeah. So, as we've grown, I've had a lot of things presented to me. A lot of people want to, hey, let's start this business. Let's do that. Right. I always kept a mindset of, I'm willing to do other businesses and expand, but it has to stem and come back to my main business. Right. I don't feel like I should go own a burger joint, right? I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm a great businessman, I can go do whatever and I'm going to succeed. Maybe that's the case, but like, I know construction and I'm comfortable staying in my lane of construction if the opportunity presents itself. And I think I've just been lucky to where, like, we had a contractor, we were on a big job, and a contractor that we were working for came up to me and said, hey, our HVAC contractor is not keeping up. Would you have any thought into starting an HVAC division? And I hadn't really thought about that at the time, but he's gonna hand me a major contract, because he knows we taken care of him on all the other things that we've done. So, it's again coming back, collaborating with my team, because that's another huge thing, right? I don't make decisions by myself, right? We sit down, we round table almost everything. And they're like, yeah, no, I think we can try this, right? And we just took our same processes, and it is a different type of construction, but at the end of the day, a lot of it's just management and using your same processes that work. And then our HVAC division popped up, and that's grown at a tremendous speed, mainly because, again, we had kind of all the bugs worked out. So that's,
I would imagine a lot of the relationships too.
Yeah,
right? Like you mentioned that guy that
it comes right with the same work that we're doing, right? Mm-hmm. If we're going to get an invite to a project, we're going to get, it's no more work for us to go get that invite. We're getting the same invites. We're just adding on the services that we can give that customer, which then led into the pipe fitting, right? So we started that. So now we're full mechanical. We had a company, Tritz Plumbing, came available for sale last year. It's one of the oldest residential service companies in town. They started in 1945.
Oh, wow.
So they got a ton of history, served the community for a long time, and they came available for sale. And again, it fit our model. So let's say we get done with a big project and we're off site, and there is a water line that's leaking, right? Well, now I have to send somebody from my big project down there to repair that water line. Well, that's an inefficiency, right? Mm-hmm. These guys aren't set up for that. Well, this service company now can swoop in, take care of that. They're fully built for that, and better serve the main Christopherson mechanical side. So we've grown a lot. We added a site utility company that was something we were subbing out, millions of dollars a year was exiting my company, going to another company to pay for this work. Again, if it made sense, we built that up. Now we're taking all of that in-house. We kind of want to be your one-stop shop for that. But it has to fully, that's my rule, right? It has to fall somewhere in my main company to add on to it. Like I said, we're not going to break out and do something that's not directly related to my industry. I've seen other people do that and they get in trouble, right? You can be a great financial advisor, but you're not a great hot dog stand owner, they're different worlds,
100%.
So
I agree.
So I kind of just picked my head up one day and I'm like, oh man, we got all these different entities and companies, and moving forward, we may end up consolidating some, we may end up moving some pieces around, we may leave it how it is, but it's going really good. I can't complain. So
and I think that's a great way to approach it. It almost then feels like it's just natural how you got to where you're at, because these opportunities come up, or people that you could do something ancillary to your main business that makes a ton of sense. It's for the same relationships, for the same customers. And I think it's a great way to grow a business. It's some of the ways that we've looked at it is we have a customer that is trusting us with some part of their business. Are there things that go along with that? I could even create better synergies. If you've got your crew on site and they can do 2 of the trades, maybe that creates synergies for the business owner or the project owner that they wouldn't otherwise get if they got to coordinate 2 different companies. So it's things like that I think make a ton of sense when you're growing like that.
In any business, you have to look at it from your customer standpoint.
Exactly.
Like you said, I put myself in their shoes. Hey, I know Matt can do this really well, but what would Matt's value be if he could take over these other 3 things? You guys do that really well too, right? By the way, it's what would my value be? What would Matt's value be to me if he could just take care of all a quarter of this project and take that off my plate? I want to be that guy, you know what I mean? And if you're doing that, build that out and be as valuable to that customer as you can. And, the rest is easy.
Well, and something you said earlier before this podcast, which I thought was fascinating, actually. So with this growth and with this, the companies coming together, the synergies, you've been able to, for lack of better terms, kind of upstream the work into kind of cooler, more sophisticated projects, for lack of better terms. And what you mentioned when I asked the question, because of the growth you have, the question I asked was, are you struggling like most others in the trades to find people? Your response was quite fascinating to me, which was, no, it's the opposite. We actually have people lining up coming to want to work for us, which is an amazing position to be in. But I asked you why. And you said because of the type of work we're able to take on is the type of work that attracts a certain skill set of people that want to come do that work, want to come work for a company like ours that's built the reputation and all the reasons we just talked about. So, I expand on that a little bit, because I think for people that are listening to this, I guarantee you many of them are struggling to figure out how to find people, and it's hard. You're in an opposite scenario right now, which is amazing. Share more on that if you would.
So I think a big thing is that you've got to constantly be looking at problems you have, and you have to change to suit the market, right? We are lucky in that we do have people wanting to come here, and we kind of get to pick and choose. It wasn't always that case, right? I did struggle with trying to find people who wanted to come work for us. We weren't very big. We're very new. We kind of did a lot of the work that I would say a big portion of my talent pool didn't want to do, right? They kind of turned their nose up at it, right? Well, for me, it's paying the bills, and it was fine, and we had a good company. But again, roundtable discussion, we threw it up on the board hey, what's our issue with getting people, right? And one of it was the area of work that we're in. So if we want to solve that problem, how do we graduate up to that next area of work? And again, we honestly looked at the problem and we came up with a solution, and we went after and we fixed it. I think a lot of people will more or less turn their nose up to the problem, or the people,
it's not a problem.
It's not, they just don't want to come work for me because of this or that, or they're stuck up, or, and it's that may help your ego, but at the end of the day, it doesn't solve your problem, right? So we adapted and changed and made ourselves attractive and got rid of that problem, right? So,
dive into what was the problem? So, like, what types of jobs were you doing that then the guy, like, help me understand?
Sure.
Like,
So from a construction standpoint, monotony is not exactly sought after by the workers, right? They don't want to show up every day and do the same thing every day. These guys are craftsmen, all of them, you know what I mean? And they want to be, they want to do something cool. They want to do something different. So we sort of cut our teeth on multifamily. Apartments in Omaha have just been, you guys see them going up in every street corner,
Can't
right?
figure out where all the people are coming.
No, and I don't, every year I'm like, well, this year I can't imagine they're still building apartments. And every year, like, here they come, right? So we did a majority of our work on apartments. And again, for me as a business owner, I liked them, right? They were easy. We made money on them. We were rolling. But our guys were starting to even the guys that we had, we'd be like, hey, man, like, can we get something else other than apartments? These things are, we
can do them in our
the
sleep
brain
at this
dead.
point.
Yeah, I mean, we can come here and do so. And then we also weren't growing at the level that we wanted to because there were more apartments to get, but I couldn't get any more guys because nobody wants to do apartments, right? So there's a couple avenues you could have gone. I could have just said, well, whatever, like, do the apartment. Like, I'm your boss. You guys do the apartments and shut your mouth, right? You run the risk of them getting burnt out and leaving, and then it's also hard to find guys to come back. So, and I would never do that. But okay, well, how do we solve both problems, right? The guys are feeling like it's too monotonous and we can't grow the company. Well, we need to look at stepping up to the next level. Plus, it helps when you have the HVAC and we've grown like we have. It kind of opens more doors for us. And it just depends what you want, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with sticking with apartments and doing that. But we saw a problem there with the workforce. And we kind of decided that we wanted to take that next step up. And again, more importantly, I just keep the guys happy. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't help the business if they're making money if 2 years from now you lose your entire workforce because you didn't listen to anybody. And, you're left with nothing. So it was kind of the move that we wanted to make. It has been going really good just as far as retaining guys. But again, you just got to listen to what they say. Everybody will tell you if they're happy or not, and it's opened us up to some cool different projects that we're even excited in the office about, right?
Like you mentioned earlier, but like what would...
This is one of my favorite questions.
Yeah, what is that? What's a cool project you're in the middle of now or one that's on the horizon that you're like, wow, I love that we're stamping our name to this project?
So I think for me, the big feather in my cap will be the new Bennington High School.
Yeah.
That's with a contractor that we've done a ton of work for. We actually were awarded the site utilities, so we're actually out there right now. We're digging for them, doing the sewers and waters and stuff. But we're currently bidding the full mechanical set. So hasn't been awarded, but it's the big one on our board that we want, right? Like, I want to put our banner up on that fence. Yeah. And I want to do the new Bennington High School, And so we recently finished the 2 Elkhorn elementary schools that I hate to say have been on the news, but not our fault, right? We didn't slow it down, but we got a couple of those schools done. Lift Solutions is building this massive warehouse for their factory that we're into. We got that one coming up. Our fitting side does a lot of boilers, steam steam piping, stuff like that. So we got a couple of renovations with them. But this was the first year that we had those kind of opportunities available to us, So I'm looking forward to, as the years go on, we're not ready for that now, but take the new tower downtown, right? Like I said, we would never even bid that now, but in a couple of years when we've grown to that point, I want, if they're going to build a new tower downtown, I want to do it, And there's nothing wrong with the contractor that had it. They're a great contractor, but they're an out-of-state contractor, I
kind of hate that, don't you?
Well, it's okay, but they're the one that's equipped for it, right? And they should get it. But if I have the ability to do it, and I'm born and bred and built in this city, and we're gonna do another tower downtown, I'm gonna want that tower, So
100%.
So that's kind of That's kind of our end goal. Is
That's the
just
idea behind it.
and you know what's cool is like we'll also like come to your house and clean your floor drain out. You know, like, it's everything in between. You know, I don't know of a whole lot of companies that take on every single aspect of mechanical like I think we're planning on doing. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, we love that. We always joke around like we are vicariously prideful from our clients' work. You know, it's like we'll drive by and be like, "Hey, I got a client that built that building." You know,
Yeah, that's cool.
And it is. You know, it's fun because it's one of the things that I think is probably, I would imagine, one of the best parts of your job is the pride and just the completed work and like we did that job was really tough. You know, it stretched us to our limit, but we got it done. And
My family would disagree with you. They hate it when I drive around town and I'm like, we did that. We lost that. Don't eat there. They didn't hire us. You know? So they're like,
So
shut
true,
up. We know. We don't care.
Oh, yeah.
That's fun. Well, you said a couple things in there that I think are fascinating and important because you mentioned being the locally owned company that's doing work in a community you came up in. And I think there's a ton of pride in that. I love that. That's obviously our model. And specifically in construction where you have the tangible end product to say, you know, to see a skyline or a city change because, you know, you grew up. And I think that's going to permeate down to your guys. And then what you said earlier too about the favorite projects. I mean, you think about schools, those are community, you know, founded, like that's where the kids are going to go. And like you're proud of seeing that happen. And like your team is going to share that too. But so that's all amazing stuff. And then the other thing you said earlier was back to attracting and keeping people. Those are big, long projects. So when you're out looking, and they're fun, like you said, people get to actually use their craft, their trade. But talk about when you're approaching somebody and you say, hey, here's the kind of work we're doing. It's going to keep you busy doing something really cool for 2 years, 2.5 years, or 18 months or whatever. I mean, that's a massive edge.
You're 100% right. And that sells itself, right? Yeah. And these are, you know, so you get into my industry and people do worry about, hey, where's the money coming from too, right? You could do a project with a builder and he could go belly up before the project's done. I mean, if nobody gets paid, right? So this other tier that we're in, it's really cool. Like you said, that's why it's so attractive to the workforce, right? Is because, these projects last, you know, years, right? And then two, they're all government or, you know, big company funded to where you're not really worried that the check's not going to be there at the end of the job. Like, especially government stuff. Like, of course that's coming. They already have the funds for it. They're going to pay. So, and you know what? I don't want to give us all the credit because we didn't really consider all of that when we were jumping up tiers, right? It's just we had other reasons. But now that you're up there, you're like, oh yeah, well this is kind of a nice feature and this is a nice feature. And
but what you did do is you made decisions that were within the vision you had that were supportive of the current company. You weren't doing the burger joint or the hot dog stand. You were, and ultimately that's the result. The result is going to be you step back and you go, oh my goodness, I didn't see in the moment all the other impact this was going to have. But when I made decisions that aligned with what I wanted to build,
100%.
The good comes with it, right?
100%.
And I mean, because that's what we see. Conversely, we see companies that step outside and make decisions that aren't in alignment with a vision, and ultimately, there's trickling impact down the road that they never saw coming.
Sure, yeah. And you know, I talk with a lot of other business owners, and I'm just always perplexed as to like, you know, how they'll build up a great company, right? I mean, amazing company. I'm jealous of their company, and then they'll sort of leave it for this like other side project that they want to do. I never, and a lot of them are like that. I never really understood why. I'm like, dude, just keep focusing on your business. If you've got side projects, do something that helps that thing grow. And I never understood that mentality of, you know, the grass is greener over here when they've grown this amazing garden. Like, just stay in your garden.
Yeah, it's true. It's the trap of that entrepreneurial mindset, I think, for some people.
Yeah.
It's difficult to say no. You know, a lot of us, like, you like the challenge of building a new thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's fun, it's exciting, it's tough. You know, you build a great business, and if you do things right, like, there's a level where you've got a ton of people in the right place that are doing great work. And sometimes I think that can feel for people like, all right, I got to go find the next thing to scratch that itch. Where
very true.
What I would argue the flip side to that is, and I think what you're kind of saying is, set a bigger vision. Get something out there that's bigger for your, current company, or which I like to do too, is other ancillary businesses I think can scratch that itch too. But to me, that's just because your vision now isn't compelling enough. Maybe it was when you were starting out and you're like, I need to get to 3 million in revenue. And that seems so far out and there's no way I could get there. And then you do, and you're like, okay, the next one, let's get to 10 million, and set that vision. And now you're at 10 million and you're kind of going, what do I do now? So I think it's just all about what's the next thing that you can get excited about, plant your flag and go get it, kind of creating that entrepreneurial mindset that you had when you started that was kind of forced upon you, because you got to pay bills.
Yeah.
And then run hard charge towards that.
And you're very true. That's just the entrepreneurial spirit, right? And to your point, you're not going to ever like stop that. But make it something to support the main business, And if you look in your business like we did, we're always running numbers. We're very big on reports and numbers. Like that's where the facts lie, right? Is in the numbers of your business. And, find something that you spend a lot of money on, right? And then say, is this something that we can branch off and create a company doing this, right? And see if it makes sense. And if you have an itch to scratch, you know what I mean? Like get into your business and figure out a way to make it better rather than, hot dog stand. So
I love that example.
Well, I mean, it's so true. And I think, sometimes it feels like in order to grow too, you have to just bring on something new, when in reality, just get good at what you're good at, get better at what you're good at. I mean, you can look at how many businesses are big national, international companies and have 2 product lines.
Yeah.
Or, they just make a widget really well, and they're the best widget maker that they can be.
Cane's Chicken.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
That's it. You get chicken fingers.
Yeah.
So
that's
true.
it.
100%.
I mean,
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
That's great.
Yeah. No, it's going really well. And I'm not smart enough to do anything else, right? I know at least I realize that, hey, this is what I'm good at. This is my talent. This is where I'm sticking. And
That's important too.
Yeah.
Okay. So think over your career as you've started the company and everything. What's one of the biggest challenges that comes to mind? And then how did you overcome or get through that challenge?
The biggest challenge for sure, easy, was cash flow. Having enough cash. I didn't start the business with hardly any money, but I think it's really important to look at the financials of your business a little bit differently than you would look at your personal financials, right? Like you can have I'm just making up numbers here. You can have $1 million in your business account one day and everybody's patting you on the back saying, oh, Matt, you did it. It's great. Like your accountant's happy, the banker's happy, right? Everyone's telling you how good you are. Then you can go land a $10 million job, spend that whole $1 million plus another $1 million, be $1 million in the hole. Now, keep in mind, you're going to get a bunch of money coming back. Me, I'd rather be in that position of being in the hole with money, all that money coming in, right? Because that's, that money can't just sit there. It's got to go out and it's got to grow, right? And then the banker's calling you and he's saying, what happened to all your money? He's worried, and it's just like you kind of get fought from everybody that you're not doing it the right way when, you have to have that big vision of where the company's going and your cash flow, and you have to make those decisions. Again, why it's so important to not take money out of your company. You know what I mean? I can't stress that enough. You leave it in there. If you need more money, then increase your salary maybe a little bit, but you can't have 20 grand in there and go take your wife to Bora. Like it has to stay in there for the business. So there was 3 or 4 years of just cash flow nightmares, especially as you're growing, right? And I remember telling my accountant, I don't have any money. Like, where's all my money at? And he's like, well, you're putting it back in the business. It's growing. It took me a long time to be comfortable with that. It's 3 years of, no sleep, man. And just holding that inside and stressing and just, I've always been pretty laid back, never really had anxiety. I had anxiety, man. Like I was just like,
Totally.
I hate to say it, but I'm like, some days, like if I just got hit by a bus, that would be easier, like it was horrible, and growing the business the first, like I said, 2 or 3 years with no cash was brutal.
Oh, I can only imagine.
It was brutal, but You know, another quick story. I also bid a big job. It was my first really big job. It was probably $2 or $3 million, and I bid it wrong. Right, I didn't make enough money, and the whole time I knew it. Right, so that's just putting me in this like dark hole, and I'm like, I'm gonna lose everything, and this whole thing is gonna go down. I don't have enough money to begin with. But the really cool thing that came of that was the lessons I've learned were worth that money being lost. Because what happened was, listen, we got through it, right? It was ramen noodles for a long time in the business and at home, right? But it taught me all the mistakes that I made. And the next job, I didn't make those mistakes. I went out there and I made double what I was supposed to make, because, and then everything from then has been going real good. So I would just say, like, those really dark times of like you making big mistakes, like sometimes like that's what needs to happen, because I'll never make those mistakes again. Yeah. And if that's what needed to happen to teach me how to, be a better estimator and run my business better, I wouldn't trade those dark days for nothing, because they may happen again, but they're not going to happen because of that, like, and the next thing that happens, I'll learn from that. And,
failure is our best teacher.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's an incredible quote in there that comes out of it, which is the lessons learned were worth every dollar lost in that moment, which is quite something. But I think too, just to tie this piece to something else that's constantly ongoing and really in the current state of the trades is, what you just described, everything you just went through as the founder is on the back end of this conversation when founders are looking to potentially exit. So I know a lot of people listening to this are in this situation where it's a family business or they're trying to figure out how to transition ownership out. And it's an emotional thing. It's tough. It's like the identity of that exiting owner is the business. And so for people that are listening to this and are in that situation, what you just described is exactly why it is really hard at some point for owners to exit their business, because of all of the dark days that were the foundation of this company make it so hard for ultimately business owners to hang it up. And that's, with the baby boomer generation that did a lot of what you're just describing, that are now on the back end of these businesses and looking to exit, those are constantly conversations we're navigating through with people, because it's hard to do. And as I listen to what you just described, it becomes so crystal clear why that is. Because all the risk, all those dark days were strapped on your back.
And it's important too in a succession plan, because I think about, I got a 16-year-old son. My nephew is a plumber. I don't know what that looks like, my succession plan, but I can tell you one thing. It's funny. My son was like, so, when I graduate high school and I'm in the office with you, and I said, what'd you say? He goes, I'm in the office working with you. I'm like, you are digging ditches, kid. Like you don't do them you do them a huge disservice to do it any other way. So I don't know what that looks like, that exit plan. But I can tell you one thing, they're going to have to earn every single piece of it, because you're not, if they don't find some turmoil along the way up, you get a different, They
won't appreciate it. They're not going to understand. They're not going to be able to connect to that.
I could be wrong, but I think I was reading an article, like there's like 2 Rockefellers that are over millionaires at this point. Like this guy in the 1800s had the more money than Elon Musk does today. Yeah. And there's 2 existing family members out of the hundreds that are now that have $1 million, right? So you gotta, because they don't have that, they didn't have to grind through that. That's a real thing that I had to experience. And you want to try to give, you can't hand it over, man. You want to try to give them some sort of turmoil so that,
they gotta learn the business. If you're going to come in and, run it someday, or just even have a part of it someday, you got to earn it. And you got to learn it and all the things. So, well, anything before we wrap, just anything thinking back on your journey that, you want to share, just fun story you want to tell?
Oh man. I mean, I could talk for hours, really. And it sounds really simple and stupid, but it's just like, just do what you say you're going to do. You know what I mean? Like if you make promises to contractors or guys or whatever, like you just got to follow through with it. There's really no secret, right? Like I don't really think I'm incredibly intelligent, you know what I mean? It's just being honest, being sincere,
person,
and just doing the right thing. People people can sense that, you know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
and whether it's construction or sales or whatever, the relationship with your customers is more than money. I've seen people, you know, get over on a customer in places I've worked for $5,000, right? And that, well, you know, I got an extra $5,000 out of him, and I'm like, well, yeah, but now he's mad at you and he's not going to do it. Yeah, you got $5,000 out of him, but I mean, you could have kept that relationship for 30 years and constantly done work together, and you know, made way more than $5,000. You know, I don't know if people really see like the forest through the trees sometimes. You know, they're just kind of stuck on their own ego, whatever.
So true,
but like I said, I could go on forever, but I don't want to bore you guys.
No,
but,
it's been fun, man. Like,
And I'll say I've seen it at an arm's length or from an outside perspective, because I've kind of been there since day one, more or less, when you know, started this, and it has been fun to watch. And I mean, everything you've said, you know, getting a chance to sit down and talk through and understand truly, you know, how decisions were being made, the core values that are inside of you that have been distilled into the company and ultimately allowed it to grow is pretty fun to watch. So, I mean, congratulations on the success, and I'm confident there's going to be a lot more fun to watch out of you as time goes on. But you know, it's cool to see you do what you've done.
Well, yeah, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys too. I think we ran through a couple insurance guys before we found Ellerbrock. So yeah, you know, putting a good team together is part of it too. So we appreciate your guys' you know, helping us on that. So
awesome. Well, we appreciate it, and everybody out there, we'll see you next one.